This little video series is called Dying Dar's Way, Radically Real Spiels on the End of Life. I'm here today with my friend Beth Feehan, and we got into a discussion about power of attorney, financial power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, and she had a personal experience with somebody who didn't have either one of those kinds of power of attorney. So I'm just asking her to share her wisdom so that you can have a better experience.
Well, my mother passed away in 1998. And 4 months later, my father had an abdominal aortic aneurysm and was hospitalized for 5 weeks in the ICU. And at the time, he was in the middle of selling his house in Hunterdon County, New Jersey, which they'd been in for 40 years. And he and my mother had planned to downsize, and then she passed in December, and in April he was, critically ill, survived the aneurysm, but we were unsure whether he was going to survive, come out of it in full, he was in a coma for 5 weeks. So at the time I did not have power of attorney. I was the only child of 3 children who lived in the area. My sister's in North Carolina, my brother was in California. And so the onus fell on me to deal with his house sale and pay his rent. We didn't know whether to move him out of his apartment. Actually wasn't in an apartment at that point. He was in the house. So we didn't know whether he would come back into his house, whether he would be medically incompetent. And as the weeks were going on, we were just about to push the button to hire a lawyer to make the designation that he was medically incompetent so that I could deal with everything. I can't really remember, but I don't think I was the executor. I think my brother was, and my brother was in California, so...
It was messy.
It was messy.
Yes.
And right when we were about to spend what I remember being around $3,000, he started to come out of the coma. He started to improve, and lo and behold, he miraculously was discharged and lived with us for a month. First he went to rehab, and then he recovered, and he lived another 8 years. So... the story didn't end there with, devastation financially, but it was a lesson for me that I went on a bit of a tirade after that with my peers who are in their 50s, 40s and 50s to say, get power of attorney for your parents because you don't want to be put in the same situation. You want to be able to make decisions for them, write checks for them. The opposite part of that is the power of attorney for medical decisions. Should he have needed particular care, he didn't have a living will, and that's the other decisions that a family needs to make and have conversations about what needs to be done with the power of attorney in those decisions.
Yeah, and it's so much easier now. The documents are so easy to just download from online, and it makes life really a lot easier for children, loved ones, parents, whomever, if you just make those specifications for yourself. Beth has had another experience that I would like to call some attention to. Another person in your close circle was without a will. And so we're going to get a little lesson on the practical matters around probate. If you don't have a will, so what happened?
Well, a member of our family passed away and did not have a will, and it was a long time ago. I can't really remember how long it took, but it feels as though it was like a 2-year process going through with legal assistance. And I don't even understand enough about probate to speak intelligently on it.
You don't have to define it, but in practical terms.
But in practical terms, it means that anything that the person who passed owns cannot be delegated to members of the family or anybody who that person intended to if there's nothing written down as to what their intentions were. So it's just a really good idea for us all to think about these end-of-life decisions before we can't think about them.
I'll make sure that in the notes accompanying this little video that we have the access information to hereafterpartners.org, where you can find all the documents that you need in the state of New Jersey. It's similar in other states, a few different documents. so that you can spare your loved ones unnecessary pain, misery, confusion, and expense, right? It's really expensive for everybody else.
Well,
If
and
you
it's
don't
also
plan-
when someone is grieving about the loss, having to deal with the
It's-
business part
Right.
of death is very difficult because you can't necessarily make clear decisions, and you're left with you have to do the business decisions because it has to do with money and all of this other stuff. But meanwhile, you're going through this emotional turmoil that makes it even worse. To have the freedom to know what the path is for all the items in the house and all the belongings, and to know that that's all set, gives you the space to have the emotional freedom to grieve, which is a process in itself that takes months and weeks and years to recover from. So
Well, there you go.
that's my story.
Thank you.